Brick houses and stone roads bake under a cloudless sky as I walk through. They say that dust from the mines chokes any attempt at gardening because the soil is too suffused with metal. Only a few rugged trees and plants survive here. I think the rocky ground itself is more to blame, however. The town is also nearly devoid of animals since there isn't much land for them to graze. In fact, Zelforce has had to import grain just to feed the oxen used to pull loads of ore from the mine. While most of Eskia's peasants have a goat or cow to milk in their backyard, peasants here have stone gardens and kilns for pottery. Preserving milk may not be the most complex form of magic, but sometimes the simplest things are the most valuable. Even with the high demand, however, I still made more than necessary. The villagers demanded I take the last bottle with me, which I gladly did since the journey back down the mountain will be a long one. I'm just about to head back to my horse when I hear a child crying. I stop and listen for a moment, but it doesn't stop. To satisfy my curiosity, I follow the sound. Around the corner is a lively and dusty street lined with vendors. Sitting in the middle is a child no more than 2 years of age. I approach at first not quite understanding the situation, nor why no one is stepping forward to help. At last, it clicks. Prince Aurelius is standing right there. Oh my goodness, kitten, are you okay? He's positively petrified and staring at the child crying in front of him. I look around, but there's no trace of Harris. Finally, I move a little closer. I can see while the child is crying. Laying on the ground by his feet are the trampled remains of a Chryspes pastry. I suppose he must have bumped into the prince, causing him to drop his sweets. I cannot help but smile, close enough now to see the mortified and confused expressions on Prince Aurelius's face. Eventually, I realized that, to both the onlookers and the child, his pale complexion and stiff back might be mistaken for anger. I suppose it makes sense, since they didn't know him as well as I do. Having been caught off guard by the prince's inability to handle this situation out of all things, I can't help but watch with an amused expression. However, as his tutor, it is my duty to instruct him in any subject where his knowledge is, well, lacking. I quickly turned to one of the vendors selling Chryspes nearby, and managed to get his attention just long enough to purchase a replacement bag full of the pancake-like pastries. I hurry to the scene, sweets in hand. Upon seeing me, the prince goes even paler than before, if that's even possible. I suppress a smile and turn towards the child. "Hi there, little fellow. There's no need to cry." I kneel down in front of the boy and grin at him. In response, he looks up at me, still sniffling, but clearly relieved to see a friendly adult. "It was an accident, see? The clumsy gentleman didn't mean to bump into you." I look up at Prince Aurelius, whose mouth falls half open in protest, only to close again a moment later. Oh, he's blushing. This is what I live for. His cheeks go rosy. He's clearly flustered beyond the point of just going pale and stiff. The child wipes his tears, but when he sees the ruined pastry on the ground, he bursts out crying again. I slowly wave the newly bought bag in front of his face. "Don't worry about that. Look, I got you a new one." He eagerly reaches out to grab the food as I hoist it up, his face still red with tears. I hold up a finger and pull back the bag to catch his attention. But wait. To make it up to you, this gentleman here, he's a prince, you know, is going to get you something even better. Prince Aurelius' eyes widen, but he steps over on stiff legs when I wave. A moment later, he actually kneels down in front of the boy. I feel a wave of relief wash over me. It seems the prince trusted me to know what to do. "Do you know what this is?" I lift up my bottle of milk and the child stares at it, somewhat uncertain. His eyes are drawn again toward the pancake, which I make sure to hold just outside his reach. "Well, Prince Aurelius here is going to turn this into something more delicious than anything you've ever had before, okay?" The child looks at me like I might be a wizard, which, to be fair, I am. I shoot a smile at Prince Aurelius, uncork the bottle of milk, and lean closer, lowering my voice. "Turn it into cream." He nods as I mutter further instructions. It seems that, as usual, he's a quick learner. Understood. I don't look up, but I can sense the bystanders watching in silent awe as Prince Aurelius weaves the spell he learned mere seconds ago. The milk begins to expand, then bubbles out the top as thick, delicious cream. I quickly bring out a pancake to catch it, and Aurelius halts his spell just long enough that we don't make a mess. "Here, try this." The moment the child's tongue touches the creamy pancake, all traces of unhappiness melt away from his face. He immediately stuffs the Chryspes into his mouth and holds out his hand for more. Smiling, I stand up, just in time to see someone pushing their way through the crowd with a panicked look on their face. She's clearly an older sister, maybe 12 years old, definitely old enough to know who the prince is, at any rate. Her feverish apology only confirms it. "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. He was only out of my sight for 2 seconds and... it was my fault." The girl scoops up the child and begins chiding him, but he is too happy with his sweets to notice. They turn around and the villagers, sensing that the scene is over, return to their lives. As the two children disappear down the street, the boy waves exuberantly at us, his nose white with cream. The bag sits in one of his hands and the bottle in the other. In the end, the prince and I walk away undisturbed. Before we have time to say anything, however, Harris appears out of nowhere and joins us. When he spots me, he seems a bit confused. Harris, Rosencruz was just helping me with a minor incident. The prince and I exchange a look, and I once more suppress a smile. Harris, meanwhile, is at a total loss for words as I give him a brief retelling of the situation. Well, good that you were there, Lady Rosencruz. I never know what to do with children. I'm certain you could have talked your way out of it if you had been there, Harris. I just happened to have a bottle of milk and an idea. Prince Aurelius, however, shakes his head with a slight frown. Children see and understand more than you might think. The words sound so honest, I'm sure he's speaking from experience. For a moment, I imagine Aurelius as a child, enduring endless gossip from the vultures at court. Not 1 second later, however, he speaks again. But thank you and your quick thinking, Rosencruz. Before I can say anything, he departs. I don't mind, however, in fact. I ponder about Prince Aurelius's comment the rest of the way home. Let's have a little look-see at our... Oh my goodness. We are extremely far along. And even these two like us a bit more than they usually would. Because Aurelius was like straight, he fucking hated us. Or was completely indifferent to us. Nazir liked us only the teeniest amount, and you know, Saren was in love with us completely. And what can I say? His weakness appears to be children. Alright. What do we have anything to do? No. We have a lot of moolah. I would like to be able to synthesize this for later. Who am I waiting on? I'm waiting on Aurelius. He's close. He'll get it this time. Wind, wind, wind. What should I do? I'm just at a loss here, honestly. Like, what is it next? 35. I don't think we'll actually do... Wait, what am I doing? Here we go. Okay, there's nothing to do as of yet. Oh no, there is something to do next time. But we're fine. We're fine. Let's do something else. Let's do this one. Harris asked me to acquire smithing materials as Prince Aurelius needed a new blade. In my humble opinion, the prince seemed to do just fine with a practice blade. Alas, I was quite sure that even if I voiced this thought aloud, and even if Harris agreed with me, the request would not change, so off I went to find smithing materials. First, I contemplated the noble's preference of precious metal rapiers, thin blades of gold and silver with more style than power. I shuddered at the thought of anyone using them in an actual fight. I decided on steel for this blade, a rather mundane choice, but sometimes expensive things are worse. At any rate, I had recently heard of a meteorite that had crashed in the mountain ranges near Zelfos. The collision site was due to be a hub of magical activity, which would create the perfect material for a magically enhanced blade. I was taking a bit of a gamble with this. If the meteorite was of stone and not iron, my journey would have been in vain. To my luck, the meteorite was almost entirely metal. I broke off a sizable chunk and prepared to leave. About halfway down the mountain, I was accosted by a magical beast. Faintly, I remembered why the mountain was largely unexplored. Its latent magic did strange things to its inhabitants and visitors. More specifically, it made its inhabitants strong and angry, and its visitors scared and dead. Using a complicated combination of fire magic and the heavy smithing materials I had on my person, I managed to slay the beast. While staring at its corpse, I had the crazy idea. The ashes from its cremation would make the perfect alloy for a magical high-carbon steel. What's a bit more fire magic? I could not possibly carry both the corpse and the meteorite fragment, so I cremated the corpse right on the side of the mountain. I must have looked nearly feral at that moment, but true artisans do not stop to powder their noses. I presented Harris with the materials upon my return to the capital. He contacted a well-known blacksmith, and a few days later we had on our hands a veritable star metal sword. It was mesmerizingly dark, and the air around it shimmered with magic. Everyone was highly impressed, the nobles at court, even Prince Aurelius himself. Oh ho ho. Oh, cool. Knock knock knock. Skippies? Okay. Yep, whatever. Yep, whatever. they must be like, you know, that. Didn't you say that he must be courting Lady Gabrielle just a few weeks ago? How do you think he'd change his target so fast? My footsteps freeze to a halt and I find myself pressing to the walls, listening to another clearly private conversation between a group of nobles. Despite the attempt to keep their voices low, the late hour and otherwise empty corridor do nothing to stiffen their raucous laughter. A few of their presumably personal servants are standing close by, holding their heads low while listening intently on the conversation of their masters. Do you think everyone is scared of their wives like you? Nobody can say whether his blood relation to our late old king is even legitimate. He's a concubine's bastard son. You tell me why he can't be caught in them all at once. True. One is the youngest member in the Marinian Council of Five. The other is a scion of the exalted Rosencreuz dynasty. Oh, me? Oh, me? Oh, you think he likes me? He probably doesn't. Not right now, anyway. Aside of the power a union with them would bring, who wouldn't want to get entangled with such youthful things? So that's why he calls on his royal tutor this late in the night. Frequently, too. Why else did you think? Disregarding their insolent comments about the prince's birth, I can tell they're talking about Aurelius. Because the royal tutor they speak of, me, is coming back from delivering magic preservation vials to him. You'd expect more discretion from him out of all people, but there he goes, summoning his own teacher to his private chambers at least once a week. Insatiable, isn't he? Oh, come on! While he is indeed insatiable in other ways, I have enough common sense to actually never enter Aurelius's room. Harris would always take all items off my hands to deliver to the prince. Besides, shouldn't those rumors only occur if I and Aurelius were to at least look enamored? He can be less rude sometimes, but what part of him beating me to pieces every other week look romantic to you? Forcing myself to not click my tongue in annoyance, I wonder if I should make an appearance to set these brainless nobles right. Let's see, what should I do? Let's have a look at our... Alright, so we're there. I don't think that did anything. Let me see what the other option does. I want to give them a taste of their own medicine, but... I don't think that changes literally anything. Oh, ooh. Let's not do that, yeah? Good evening, gentlemen. At the sound of my voice, the three noblemen freeze on the spot and turn to look at me. Their attendants gaze at me for a moment before all bowing at once. Lady Rosencreuz, skulking around in the mid of the night. We didn't expect to see you here. Whatever is keeping you so late? I bite back a most likely undiplomatic remark that's already on the tip of my tongue and give an overdramatic sigh instead. Oh, just another urgent commission as usual. The seasonal floodings near the port of Alia have been wreaking so much havoc to keep me and His Highness busy. I just delivered an item of considerable importance so they may depart early in the morning. But what am I complaining about, seeing as gentlemen like yourselves are still awake and working overtime? Eskia is truly fortunate to have such caring peers. The nobility of other courts knows nothing but to gossip day and night. If the men notice my sardonic smile, they do not comment on it. Sticking their noses straight in the air, they begin laughing instead. Oh, Lady Rosencreuz, you are truly too kind. Yes, yes, we are only fulfilling our responsibilities as we're supposed to. Seeing as we're all busy, please do not allow us to keep you a moment longer. We humbly beg your pardon for taking our leaves. The nobles all share one final round of laughter before heading off. Their attendants bow to me once more before following while regarding me with condoling smiles. As much as I would have liked to give their masters a piece of my mind, I understand it might have given them the validation. This way, I can at least hope that the servants know about the situation and unsightly rumours won't spread any further. Sighing, I return to my quarters while sending sympathetic thoughts to Aurelius. He never hid his distaste for the nobility, but admittedly, if I were the one to grow up having the whole court scrutinising all of my actions and pull me through the mud, I would have ended up disliking nobles as well. However, why do they gossip so much about Aurelius? As young as Eskia is a monarchy, a prince being born from a concubine is nothing out of the ordinary. Since his mother lives in seclusion, there might be some history there, but... I wonder if my personal relationship with Aurelius is good enough to inquire about that. Apparently I didn't need the leadership or the fulfilled, or maybe I did need them, I don't know. But that is his, maybe in this instance, it's an either or. Like, I could have 70 etiquette or 70 leadership, or simply have just fulfilled the first and second noble request. Alright, what's up next? Because I haven't actually looked at this one, so... Oh, Seren's gonna fail the water one next, but that's fine. Alright, we need nothing for week 37, apparently. Not that we're lacking in anything, really. Let's do some intelligence. I'm trying to think what he should do. Just keep doing water, I guess. Wait, people need things. People need things. I've almost forgotten. She needs more of this. Wait, what was the other one? It's the bricks, right? Yeah. Alright. That and that is done. I don't have that much money, which kind of sucks. Can we make the lotus darts yet? Yes, Aurelius can make the lotus darts, but they are definitely not needed yet, so I can just hold off until some more requests are done, I guess. What should I do? What should I actually do? I don't need anything right now. I'm very good on most fronts. Let's just get our charisma up, I guess. Save scumming is working out. Like, not doing it, rather, is working out. The first letters from merchants humbly requesting more milk to make the cream for Prince's pancakes come not long after the incident in Zelfloss. Initially, I think it's just an isolated request, but soon enough it's clear that Chryspes with cream is becoming a fad in the mining town. As the milk I delivered last time runs out, the letters become more insistent. According to them, the people can make cream themselves, but they need the milk to do so. After getting Prince Aurelius's blessing, I decide to start enchanting more as soon as possible. Anything to make the lives of Zelflo's villagers a bit sweeter. There is one particular merchant with whom I exchange several letters. Eventually we agree on a date for them to come and collect the enchanted bottles. They're arriving today, so I go to meet with them. When I do, I finally realize who I've been corresponding with. There are 4 of them. A man, the merchant, judging by his clothes, his wife, and their children, who are none other than the toddler that started this whole thing and his sister. My lady, thank you again for the great gift you gave me, and the one you gave my son. Thank Prince Aurelius, not me. He's the one funding this. Jan hasn't stopped blabbering about the nom-nom Chryspes since he got them. She sounds exasperated, but I can see it's mostly for show. She puts one arm around the boy, Jan, who is staring at me with hungry eyes. Prince's pancakes are giving our people so much joy, not just the children. I'm not sure Prince Aurelius will appreciate the name. A better name would be Tutor's Flowers. Everyone jumps. Somehow, Prince Aurelius and Harris manage to sneak up on us. The commoners quickly fall into exaggerated bows. Your Highness, we were just... You could make the Chryspes form a flower to better capture the cream. A rose, perhaps? I can tell the idea appeals to the merchant and his wife. They stick their heads together at once and begin mumbling. In response, I frown. Tutor's Flowers? Really? I give the prince an accusatory glance. I can tell he's amused from how the corner of his mouth twitches. I note that both the prince and Harris are dressed for travel. They have swords strapped to their waists. Both are leading a horse. Your Highness will be accompanying us then? Prince Aurelius merely nods. I glance at the weapons again, and suspicion takes root in my mind, but I decide to wait until later before confirming it. We form a small caravan once the bottles have all been loaded onto the merchant's cart. Harris, the prince, and I roll on horses, as is the merchant. The children ride on the cart, which is driven by the merchant's wife. Before long, the palace's ramparts are replaced by the green walls of a nearby forest. I ride up to Prince Aurelius and glance down at the sword by his side. He follows my gaze, then looks up at me. When he speaks, his voice is low, so the merchants do not hear. There have been reports of bandits ambushing caravans to Zelfloss. Prince doesn't need to say anything else. He obviously doesn't want to alarm the family, and he knows me well enough to understand that I can defend myself. So with a bait, Thank you for the warning. I smirk and Prince Aurelius smirks back. Harris rides up to us. Knowing there might be an attack, I decide to ride close to the merchants and let the two men keep watch. Luckily, they turn out to be quite good company, especially the girl, Angie, who has questions about life at the palace, alchemy, magic, and books. Apparently, she was taught to read by her parents and has since then become a bit of a bibliophile. I smile as I listen to her talk about the latest romance novel she's read. As we near Zelfloss, the forest slowly melts away and is replaced by cliffs and rocks. The path begins winding upwards. I can tell the prince and Harris are getting tenser because they look around and listen for even the slightest sounds or movements. I go quiet as well, letting my senses expand. Valkii, are you listening? I hear the sound of a blade being pulled out of a scabbard. An arrow is loaded into a crossbow. I open my eyes and seek Aurelius's. We exchange a look, and that is all it takes. Come on, we have to go. Leave the cart. What's going on? Bandits. They will try to take the cart. We'll defend it. You need to go. Come on, Angie, get in my lap. The sound of hooves echoing against the cliff behind us makes them realize it isn't a joke. The merchant gathers his wife and son on his horse. I give Angie a hand and she takes it, her eyes round with fear. I nod at Prince Aurelius, who nods back. And then he pulls his sword free from its scabbard and turns the horse around to form up with Harris. Follow me. We head off at a gallop. I have to resist glancing over my shoulder one last time. I know the prince will be fine, but I can't help the clump of worry forming in my throat. For a few tense minutes we ride. I keep my senses wide. My throat burns from overextending my wood magic, but no one is following us. Angie keeps her head down and stays quiet, her knuckles going white from gripping the front of the saddle. Okay, we can slow down now. The merchant's wife is crying, and so is Jan, the toddler. The merchant comforts them as best as he can, but he seems just as rattled. Angie turns to look behind us, her face pale. Then she looks up at me with a frown. Aren't you worried about him? I blink, confused. Have I missed something? Something dangerous? The thought makes my heart beat a little faster. You just ran off. You didn't even say anything to him. To who? The prince! Like, you know. She waves her hands in the air. Why is she so angry? I will wait for you, or promise me you will be safe. Oh, she's, like, quoting romance novels. I stare at her, not understanding why she's so upset. Prince Aurelius will be fine. A dozen or so bandits are no danger to him, right? Alright, we saving. Let's have a look at his affection towards us. Why those words? Well, that didn't do anything. What about the other one? What about now? No, nothing changed. I want to see where the other one goes. I don't really know, don't think this matters, but I don't know, I want the best reaction. The moment I ask it, I already know the answer. Angie blushes and looks down. In the books, they always, you know, when the hero is in danger and their lover... Lover? No, Angie, he's a prince, not... I cannot even bring myself to say it, but my protests make Angie forget her embarrassment. Instead, she gets upset. I saw you talk without talking. My parents do that all the time. She scowls at me. Don't lie. I'm not lying. I look at the parents in a panic. The mother seems to finally realize what is going on, so she comes over, takes Angie by the hand and leads her away while apologizing profusely. We spend the next few hours in awkward silence. Angie is clearly too young to understand why I'm so uncomfortable. The very idea that I would ever say anything like that to the prince, or that he would say anything like that to me, is impossible. But her words are like a weed in my mind. Each time I try to uproot it, it comes back stronger than before. But when Harris and the prince finally return, cart in tow, I can barely acknowledge them, which Prince Aurelius immediately notices. Angie watches from the cart, giving me an "I told you so" look. Is everything alright? He seems worried for me. I can't help it but look him up and down, scanning for any sign that he is hurt, but even a cursory glance tells me he is unscathed. Yes, I am. I pause, he looks at me and I speak with my eyes. Glad you are safe. He smiles briefly, then nods at the merchants. Good work. For the rest of the ride to Zelfloss, isn't it Zelflos? Whatever. I try not to talk to the prince, nor Angie. However, my mind remains in perfect turmoil. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, this kitten is so tired. She's so tired. It's okay. Alright, what do we need? We apparently need 300 coins for something that's coming up. That's annoying, to say the least. Possibly, anyway. Alright, what's our combat? That's fine. I just really don't want to be caught off guard. We have a lot of etiquette. We have a lot of intelligence. We have a lot of etiquette again, but not enough for week 42. So yeah, let's just do it. Oh, boo boo boo. Boo boo boo. The garden outside the window of my study is beckoning so invitingly to me that I finally give up my fruitless attempts at work and made my way there. I am far from the only person to succumb to its allure. Pages and maidservants in cozy gatherings of 3 or 4 picnic on the neat green lawns, their laughter chiming softly in the pleasant coolness of the evening. Little dainty flowers open to the sky, the marble colonnades of the central pavilion are stained gold by the setting sun. Taking a deep breath, I close my eyes and savor this moment of peace, from research, tutoring, and palace politics for one ephemeral, delightful... Dash it! I want to rid the realm of a dangerous pack of direwolves, not run a fourth-rate country sauna. Well, so much for peace and quiet. I applaud your intention, brother. I merely point out that your invention, though innovative, contains a few flaws that render it unworkable. Be so good and help me fix them? I cannot work miracles in 10 minutes while out for an evening stroll. Will you not ask Rosencruz? Only as a last resort, I want to surprise her with this. Surprise me with what? I amble up to the 2 princes. Aurelius, who has me in his line of sight, nods a terse welcome. Nazir, whose back is turned to me, spins around, jumping slightly as he does so. Oh, Valkii, hello. Good evening. What were you 2 talking about? My brother has been tasked to eliminate a direwolf pack raiding isolated settlements around Spellor. As to that, I have a cunning plan. Please, go on. Direwolves, as we all know, are weak to fire. Upon encountering the pack, I propose to incinerate them using firebombs. What a brilliant notion, Nazir. Thank you, I quite agree. There is, unfortunately, one slight drawback to this tactic. It might start a blaze that could end up incinerating not just the direwolves, but the entire forest. Precisely, which is why, marvel and wonder, with evident pride, Nazir unfurls the scroll he has been holding in his hand. This is... I intend to register this invention under the name Nazir's Genius, a device that combines the firebombs with a water vial. Interesting. First, the bombs explode. Kaboom! We have char-grilled direwolves, and after that, the deluge. With the water putting out the fire only after the bomb's explosion, that solves the problems of direwolves and forest fire in one go. Tragically, experimental trials have not been successful. Experimental trials? The mechanism governing the release of the magics cannot withstand the pressure of the explosion. Fire and water are always released simultaneously and turn into steam. As it is, Nazir's genius is about as deadly as a trip to the sauna. I think I see the problem. And do you see the solution? Perhaps I have an inkling. Enlighten us with your wisdom. Using water to quench fire is a clever thought, but I wonder if you considered the effect of fire on water. I see. You do. Water turns into steam when you bring it to boil, as you must if you explode firebombs next to it. So? So the container shatters. The water vial magically compresses water and its magical bonds cannot withstand the pressure of all that water turning into steam at once. Huh, hadn't thought of that. Aurelius is right. You will need to find some way to prevent the explosion from heating the water, or at least reduce the effect. Fantastic notion, utterly brilliant, awfully helpful. Well, time to fly. Wait, do you know what needs to be done? Of course, simple when you think about it. Can't imagine how I couldn't see it before. No time to lose, off I go. Nazir is backing away from us even as he is speaking. By the time he reaches the last words, he is practically running at full speed into the palace. Is he running away from us? Not from us, there's Harris. I follow Aurelius's eyes and see Harris striding towards us, brows furrowed and eyes promising dire retribution to anyone in his way. Your Highness, Lady Rosencruz, have you seen Prince Nazir anywhere? He was here a moment ago. Blast it. What trouble did Nazir get into this time? I want him to clear up the mess he made in the corridor outside his chambers. It is dripping wet, the walls have somehow been scorched, and the floor is a minefield of broken glass. How mystifying. If either of you finds His Highness Prince Nazir, please tell him to present himself to the scene of the crime, the corridor outside his bedroom, and assist in the cleanup immediately. We will. Good day to you, Harris. And to you, Your Highness, Lady Rosencruz. Harris storms off, leaving Aurelius and I looking at each other speechlessly. Experimental trials. For the protection of the good villagers of Spellor and their livestock, I have no doubt the cleaning staff is happy to put in a few extra hours. I only wish he would learn to clean up after his own mess sometimes. Doesn't he? Never. Every time he played a prank on me when we were children, it was always Harris washing the ketchup stain from my tunic and rubbing his silly drawings from my desk and picking the twigs from my hair. The prince clamps his mouth shut abruptly and walks away. I grin after him, at last understanding why Aurelius usually sounds so irritated when talking to Nazir. Okay, what are we doing? I don't think we need leadership coming up. I think we need either 80 combat or 100 of Aurelius's water magic or 300 coins. I don't know if it's all of the above or only one of them, but we have Aurelius rather at 100 water anyway. And we have 80 combat, obviously, and we have 300 coins, so our etiquette has gone up. Oh, I guess. Whatever. No save scumming. Accept. I smile at the band of merry children as they run by carrying baskets full of coins and little pastries. Trailing behind them are small flags in Eskian colours. They stop a burgher on the road and ask for swords to melt into plows. The man laughs, then gives the traditional reply. I have no sword to gift, my lord, but let this coin show my accord. Oh, is this like a Halloween type thing? Then he drops a few coppers into each child's basket and sends them on their way. Full of laughter, they run toward me. The feast at the plough is, as far as I can tell, just an excuse for the burghers to stay up a bit later, to decorate the town squares with flowers and garlands, and to arrange markets. When the sun sets, the peasants light lanterns. Troops of troubadours provide music and poetry readings throughout the night. The official cause for celebration was originally the end of hostilities. The militia were ordered by the king to melt their swords into plowshares, hence the name. For me, however, the festival provides a welcome excuse to escape the palace and its intrigue for an evening. I think I spot Prince Nazir ducking into one of the taverns, but I decide not to pursue him. I do want to get back to my chambers tonight instead of tomorrow morning, after all. I buy a few trinkets to send home to my siblings, listen to a few songs, and enjoy some traditional Eskian pastries. By the time I decide to start heading back to the palace, it's already past midnight. It isn't a big event, so just a few streets away, there are already no signs of it. The night is calm, the moon bright, and the cobblestones devoid of people. I hurry my steps a bit, pulling my cloak tighter around me as I go. Despite these uneventful past weeks, I can't help but be wary of walking alone. Maybe that's why I spot the hooded man, despite him skulking in the shadows of nearby buildings. I stop. The palace is close enough that if he is an assassin, I may be able to run to safety. But he doesn't seem to have noticed me, nor is he moving in my direction. Wait a second, I recognize that gate. I squint in the dark. His boots aren't those of an assassin, nor a burgher or guard for that matter. Is it Aurelius? Hehehe. In fact, they belong to Prince Aurelius. I would recognize them anywhere. But what is he doing out at this hour? Not going to the festival, that much is clear. He's moving quickly with purpose. In a moment, he'll simply disappear into the labyrinth that is Old Town. I hesitate for a second before setting off after him. Why is he alone? He usually has Harris with him, at the very least, or a full squadron of guards. He could be in danger, but my primary motivation is curiosity. If I go back to my chambers without learning what he's doing, I won't be able to sleep. I make my footfalls as soft as possible, careful to stay within eyeshot and to avoid being seen. Thankfully, the prince has his hood up and never once stops to turn around. The way he walks is like a panther out on a stroll. Every step is planned and measured. We turn onto the streets of Old Town, where the Lord Regent's laws on lighting are less stringently adhered to. The buildings crouch close together, casting cold shadows. It doesn't take me long to realize Prince Aurelius isn't really going anywhere at all. He turns one corner, then another, only to end up on the same street he would have been on had he gone straight. Although impossible, I feel like I can hear a disapproving grunt, the same sound he makes when displeased, even though his icy glare isn't enough to express it. Soon after, I realize that I'm not the only one following him. Here and there, long shadows pull back, bricks occasionally fall from rooftops, and lone, careless steps echo off the walls. Prince Aurelius must be trying to shake them, but does he think I'm one of his pursuers? I need to make my presence known, if only to ask him what's going on. Before I have time to take matters into my own hands, Prince Aurelius stops. I do too, suddenly indecisive. I look around. We're in a barely lit back street, somewhere not far from a tannery, judging by the smell. There is nothing around to see or to wait for. There is nothing else to do, either. I approach the prince, who pushes back his cowl and lets his cape fall onto the ground when I come near. Despite the darkness, I can see that he's smiling. So he did see me. Valkii, you didn't keep me waiting very long. His voice is loud, much louder than it needs to be. The unusually fond tone he uses when saying my name for the first time makes my mind go blank. I have no need to respond, though, because he steps even closer, only to stop about hand's length away from... about hand's length in front of me. The scent of flowers caresses my nose and a breath catches in my throat. I am being followed. I stare at him, but he doesn't seem frightened in the least. Instead, something akin to playfulness twinkles in his eyes. Prince Aurelius takes my hands and leans in. His next words are said in a whisper, causing his warm breath to tingle on my cheek. Say something. What are you doing here? I saw you earlier. I was worried. Yes, good. The praise is spoken in a low, husky rumble. Prince Aurelius's eyes flick to some point over my shoulder, and I immediately feel the hair on my neck stand on end. Is someone there? Just as my mind finally catches up to the situation, he lifts his left hand, and one after another his fingers brush against my cheek. His voice is surprisingly gentle, as is his caress. If you had to decide between kissing me right here, right now, or possibly dying, which would you choose? His eyes don't leave mine, so I understand that he's absolutely serious. For a moment, it feels like the cobblestones beneath me disappear and I'm standing on nothing at all. Oh, bitch, where was this romance in Seren's route? Can I just ask that? I barely have time to nod before he brings one hand to the small of my back and pulls me closer. The instant we touch, I feel the prince's warmth seeping through his clothes. His other hand finds its way to my neck, then the tips of his fingers dance along my skin and he tilts my head upwards. I follow his lead, albeit stiffly at first. My arms hang at my sides, limp as noodles. Prince Aurelius's lips are soft and warm and taste vaguely of tea. Not bitter, not sweet, but something else entirely. Fragrant. Hesitantly, I bring my hands to his chest and my fingers curl against his cravat. A gentle shudder creeps along my back and toward my neck, then to my cheeks and finally to the tips of my ears. I don't dare take a breath. My heart throbs loudly in my chest, and so does the prince's. Despite his cold expression, the innocent feeling of my mouth against his simply isn't enough anymore. I part my lips to taste him, and he doesn't protest. In fact, Prince Aurelius smiles before his mouth opens, allowing my advances. My heart practically explodes. I reach out and trail my fingers through his hair, which is soft and silky. The muscles under his shirt go taut. I take half a step forward, wanting to be even closer. Prince Aurelius, caught off guard, stumbles. His back hits the wall behind him. He gasps, then lets out a low chuckle. Our mouths part for only a single second. Both his hands move to hold me by the shoulders, not to push me away, but to steady us both. I stand on my tiptoes and lean forward to reach him again. The chasm beneath my feet deepens as I lose myself in our kiss. Prince Aurelius answers every move I make with one of his own. It feels strangely familiar, as if all of our sparring thus far, chess, swordplay, and wordplay, led to this moment. My hands snake beneath the prince's back and his drop to my hips. Oh, I bet if we said not to kiss, we wouldn't end up on his romance route, maybe. I don't know. And drop to my hips. Together, we close what little distance between us remains. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. Prince Aurelius softly licks my lips one final time before drawing back. I come out of the kiss like a swimmer after a deep dive, gasping and blinking. He glances over my shoulder, and for a moment I don't understand why, but then I remember his pursuers. They're gone. It was just a ruse. Just a means to distract his pursuers and nothing more. I feel like someone just poured cold water on me, all the heated tension in my body evaporates in an instant. You did well. You bitch. You fucking bitch. You whore. How dare you? The prince is unflappable as ever. His eyes, which seemed so hungry moments ago, are once more enigmatic and cold. I avert my gaze to collect myself, trying to still my beating heart as shame sets in. I got too carried away, too eager, and with a prince no less. When I look up again, I try to even out my shaky voice. Who were they? I can't bring myself to say Your Highness nor his name, so I say neither. Prince Aurelius shrugs, frowning. No idea. Let's make sure we've really lost them. He takes my hand and leads me to a cluster of buildings in Old Town. We take close corners and crawl through abandoned hovels until finally we're certain no one is following us. After a while, the prince's path becomes straightforward. I follow him in a daze. His taste still lingers on my lips, but I can't stop thinking about his quick and cool demeanor afterwards. In fact, Aurelius is acting like nothing happened at all. Maybe he's right. As the adrenaline from our escape dies down, I start asking myself questions. Who were those pursuers? What did they want with the prince? Where are we going? Here. He stops in front of a nondescript building at the border between Old Town and the Market District. From the outside, it looks more or less like any other house on its street. I look around. There are boarded up shops, houses with apartments on the top floors, and a sleepy tavern. What was this place exactly? And we will find that out in the next video. Bye!